Representing John Tavar Entertainment. Your source to knowledge.
GG, I am John Tavar, Death Roundtable Podcast, your source to knowledge. We got our special guest, Long Live Our Butterfly Foundation. Welcome back, ladies. Hold up, let me get a little clap right there. And by the way, she's trying to say I'm nervous, but I'm never nervous. But welcome back. So how y'all doing though? How y'all doing?
Thank you for having us back. We really appreciate it.
Okay, I mean, for us, the first episode, we had a very deep conversation about domestic violence, and it got very in depth. Unfortunately, it was a little mishap with the audio, which I will definitely take full blame for it. But you're back here, so let's kind of recap and just talk about the whole foundation and like how it got started and so forth.
Okay. I'm Kelsey Hidalgo. I'm the founder and president for Long Live Our Butterfly Foundation, and she's my niece.
I'm Anna Yeli, and I'm the vice president of Long Live Our Butterfly.
Nice. So let's talk about how this foundation got started, though. What actually initially started the whole foundation, this movement, and from what you guys started and what you guys are at now.
Good one. So we were a movement. We were not trying to be an organization. That's the last thing we had in mind. We were grieving. And we were grieving our sister, who was brutally murdered on April 23rd of 2021. And we are still struggling. I was just telling my niece that when we put up the banner, I looked at her and I was like, I'm never going to see her again. And so here we are almost a year later when we started the foundation, which was really just the community that started it. And they kept telling us and showing up at our events, and because we would have events just to talk about like grief and what happens. And when another woman showed up murdered by her partner, we would go visit and be like, oh my God, but what can we do? Something needs to be done. And then people would just come to those meetings. They were really meetings. They were like gatherings, I guess.
So they to support?
They would show up to support, and then they would say like, come on, like what are we gonna do? Like, let's make an organization. What are you guys gonna do? And my family just looked at each other like, I don't know, what can we do? But we should do something. So little by little, we were invited to participate in other people's events. We were asked to speak. We were asked to tell my sister's story. We were invited to the Dominican Republic to do a conference for the hard of hearing high school girls and teenagers. And some of them, we found out that day, they are in a domestic violence situation, or their parents are, but because they are hard of hearing, it's actually double. So we were invited to speak to them. We were invited to speak also at the White House. We were able to meet with Congress. Yes.
We have something coming up in September. We'll be speaking at the Brides March.
Oh, yeah.
What was that?
The Brides March is I don't know if you heard of Gladys. She was murdered by her ex-partner in her house in New Jersey.
Oh.
So
in her wedding dress.
In her wedding dress.
The day of her
That's
wedding.
what it's called, right?
Brides March. So everybody has to wear a wedding dress, or like kind of like a wedding dress. And this is every September they do this ever since she passed away.
And how long ago was that?
That was like in my like when I was
years.
born in 1980.
Well, we're not going to talk about age. So back to the question, okay? Because she's my niece and I don't need anybody taking out the calculator. Thank you. Use other measuring tools, not that. Okay, wow, that was hard. Seriously though, that's how we kind of came about. And so people were asking us if we would take donations, like to help with our events, and then we would realize, oh my God, we can help. We can maybe use the money and make better events or help out the victims themselves if anybody comes to us, or even use it as aid for
Right,
whenever
right.
somebody passes for the family. Like, so we started coming up with so many ideas, and everybody just kept looking at us like, so do you want to do the organization now, or do we still have to wait? And we just took the leap of faith, and here we are in less than a year. We've done a lot.
But that's Jesus Christ. That's another goddamn thing.
Uh,
I mean, like I know you for a few years, but I learned about the system, and you told me that it's last year, right? Last year, and that's tough. That's really tough.
But with the organization, like, since it was a movement at first, like, we used our, like, anybody who was feeling the same way we were, because anytime we would get together as, like, we would have, like, our meetings and stuff like that, or we would just have, like, an event. We would talk about, like, what are the signs of domestic violence. Like, we would get a lot of people who've been through the same situation, and we will grieve together. Usually when they say, like, when you were talking to somebody who understands your grief, like, it's much more easier to go by.
So, I mean, you're talking about signs, and as you just mentioned right now, like, what signs can you actually inform people that could be a sign of domestic violence or may head to,
Okay, so I would say, like, if your partner is a narcissistic or, like, very overpowering, wants, like, for example, let's give an example. Let's say if your partner doesn't want you wearing a certain clothing outside, I feel like that's a type of way of, like, him not wanting nobody else to see him but himself, or herself, or, like, for example, if she tells you, "Oh, don't wear that crop top, your boobs are out," or something like that. I feel like that's kind of a way of
it's like controlling you,
body shaming.
And also, like, there's financial abuse, there is physical abuse.
Well, let me say, so financial is very important, right? Because financial is pretty much what happens with majority of the women, for example, in the Dominican Republic.
Culturally, right? How it
Right. Pretty much especially if they're undocumented, it doesn't even. I'm not even going to focus on just the Dominican Republic, period. If you're undocumented and you're with a partner, they can use that financial control over you, because the way they see it is, where you going?
Right. They have that.
What you doing?
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have any money.
And then there's the when you have children and you're separated, or sometimes not even separated, but financial control is one of the main type of abuse that an abuser has on the person, on their partner or previous partner through the child, if that made any sense.
Okay. And when you say, unfortunately, you think them, people that are undocumented, they're not really informed about the actual help they can get if they feel as if they're, in a position of getting.
Okay, well, there were 2 points.
Domestic violence, but yeah.
Right, so for the documented, we're learning.
Yeah.
We don't even have a year that we've started the organization, but so far we're learning that a lot of people, we focus in Washington Heights, Marble Hill, Inwood. In our area where we are, we're noticing that undocumented people are so alienated from information. And we also noticed that when we went to the Dominican Republic, because one of the things is when we speak to undocumented people here, they don't know what the rules are in the R, and they don't know what the rules are over here. They don't know what the rules are in Argentina. They don't know what they are here. So it's like, that was one of the conversations that we had when we spoke at the White House. Like, how can we help? Like, even if it's just us being the mediator or the liaison, I don't know, whatever. Even if it's a webpage that we can do, how can we help bridge gap of knowledge and information so that these undocumented people can learn to empower themselves? So that's that. And then for the example that I gave of the abuser controlling financially the intimate partner or previous partner through a child, is the basic example is child support. When they know that the person that has the residential custody, the person that has the custody of the child or is with the child the most, you're upfronting that money because you're with that child every day. So the child support is kind of like a refund if you really look at it. So by withholding that or controlling how much they give is a way to overpower the other person's life. And it's become so, it's like a normal now in our communities and societies that people don't even see it as abuse.
Wow.
So
that's
sorry to interrupt.
No,
I'm sure she has. I mean, there's other ways.
No, definitely. But I'm glad you actually, expressed that to the audience because again, many people are really, are really misinformed or uninformed about how they could actually get help when those circumstances, unfortunately happens. But I just want to think about what actually leads to this actual, even to begin with, the violence part. Because I mean, do you think us as human beings, are we just naturally violent, or it actually stems from something that occurred in your upbringing that made you that type of way?
I feel like it's generational, due to the fact that if this, for example, let's say, if you are a kid or your family or your parents argue every day, and you see your dad hitting your mom or your mom hitting your dad, I feel like you're more prone to becoming an abuser.
You've been exposed to it. Right. You see it every day. It's come subconsciously embedded.
Right. So it's kind of normal to them, even though that they know that this is killing them. They feel like, oh no, this is normal. My mom used to do this to my dad, or my dad used to do this to my mom. This is something that the parents obviously don't notice that this is killing their children mentally, but later on this is what happens. They become abusers, or they can become victims as well.
So it's in other words, the abused become the abusers.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one thing I always think about is because of what actually generated that type of behavior.
Right.
It's not to give someone the pass of
right.
being violent, obviously, but that got to stem from somewhere. What actually generated that behavior? But you're right about as far as how they brought up, and just give an example about seeing their parents, vice versa, the mother hitting the father hitting the mother.
That's one of the many examples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why focusing on healing is so important. Regardless of where you are in life, right? It could be that you saw abuse as a child. It could be that you are a survivor. One of the things is there's so many layers to things, because even if you are the abuser, literally you can change. So healing is the answer.
So how can you get that person to even recognize that they are the abusers? Because unfortunately, many of them are so much in denial.
Okay.
They'll deny it from the jump.
Oh yeah.
But how can we actually get them to really recognize that type of behavior? That they're really, expressing, for them to realize that, you have to really check yourself. Because this is something very serious.
It is serious, and it is so serious that a lot of us decide to just, sweep it under the rug. One of the best ways that, at least for Lola, but for my family, right, we feel that it's education and raising the volume, because it's like a commercial. Here I go. It's like a commercial, right? Whenever those commercials have the beats to the phone number, you remember them, right?
Yeah.
So it's there's a beat, there's a pattern, there's a rhythm, and we've been having the beat, we've been having the rhythm, the pattern of women dying on a daily basis. It's gotten to a point that every day I have news to post about another woman that's been dead. Not so much men, but majority women. And so it's is Lola Butterfly gonna become the news reporter for Instagram now, for any DV? And so, but to circle back to the point, we feel that getting the information out there and just drilling it, if we can make posters and billboards and whatever we have to do to make it a norm, hey, this is domestic violence and abusive and controlling behavior, check it. Just check it. And that's what I mean. Like, even the abuser can change. They have a story too.
Right.
Of course, by the time they murder someone, nobody wants to hear it because we are so antagonistic towards them, right? But they have their reasons. Are they realistic? In our case, absolutely the hell not. But you never know what happens within two people behind closed doors, right? So that's what I mean. Healing is the answer. And same goes for the victim, actually for the survivor. So one of the things, I can talk about this for days, my brain is going haywire. So one of the things that I always check survivors with is when they say, oh, I'm a victim of domestic violence. Ma'am, if you were a victim, you would be 7 feet under. You are a survivor. And
so there's like a difference between those two terminologies.
of course, you're no longer a victim. You were, especially if you're able to get out. If you wake up another day, even if you're still undergoing the process of being free, you're still surviving.
Yeah.
So is that mindset of check yourself. Yes, the abuser can change, but you too.
Right.
You're not a victim until, like my sister, you're no longer here. You are a survivor. You still have a chance. Educate yourself, motivate yourself, believe in yourself. Like, get out there and do it. Learn about it. So these are the type of things that even the victim, the survivor, once you're able to get out, do something about it. Empower yourself, even if it's through yourself, like self-work, self-healing, right? So you don't go to the next relationship as a survivor, automatically assuming that if a guy, dropped a cup and it splattered, you're thinking that he was going to throw it at you.
So that's why necessarily before a survivor goes into a relationship, they have to heal. Because you necessarily you either become like for example, like you said, if they drop something, you're all scared and stuff. It would be if they have an argument with their partner, which is totally normal. You can have an argument with your partner or a discussion. They'll be like, oh, offensive.